That song is all about mindfulness, being in the moment. And look who's here to be mindful with us. It's Mitch. Mitch is back. Yay. Look at that. Look at all those people clapping. uh, what a great title this is. I can't wait. I read a little bit about this before, what you put out. And so bring some woo woo to us, Mitch.
I'd be glad to bring some woo-woo to you. Actually, I'm super excited about today's talk title and grateful to be back with all of you. Good to see everybody. Hello and good morning. So, something I've been doing with a lot of my talks now is I start off with a little bit of humor because here's the thing. When we're playing and we're laughing, we actually retain 400% more of what we learn. Yeah, fun fact. So, here's a little humor for us to start our session today. So a church decides to throw a big picnic and they invite the entire community to come. And the pastor is looking at his bucket of apples and he's like, oh, I only think I have one for each person. So he puts them at the end of the table with a little sign that says, only take one apple. Remember, God is watching. At the other end of the table was a plate of cookies with a little sign scribbled by a child that said, take all the cookies you want. God's watching the apples. Isn't that fun?
The
So,
we did a thing a while back about laughter is a spiritual practice, and
oh, yeah.
it's great to do that, what you just did. So thank you.
Oh, good. I will do it every time now.
Always, yeah,
It's my new thing. So,
yeah. All right.
so I'm going to deep dive into a little story to kick off our talk today. In the fifth grade, I remember going up to the blackboard to solve a math problem. I loved to volunteer for math problems because I loved math and I was pretty good at it. We were doing division. This was the time period where we were working with dividing numbers into other numbers. And when I went up to the blackboard, I was super excited. I was confident that I could solve this problem. And I looked at the problem. And what was interesting about this problem is it wasn't dividing into whole numbers. That's all we'd been taught, is how to divide 2 into 4 is 2. We hadn't been taught about fractions yet. So when I went up to the board, I noticed that the number didn't go in equally. And then I heard a voice telling me where to put the number, how to put the 4 under the 5, because it was 2 into 5, how to carry the 1. And I'm sure the teacher was looking at me with expectations of some point I would turn around and say, I'm not sure what else to do, but I didn't. I solved the problem. 2 into 5 is 2.5. And I sat down, and the teacher was looking at me with a bit of surprise and curiosity because he knew nobody taught me how to do that. Wasn't a lot of tutoring going on in my home. And the voice said to me, look, I can tell you more things. And I said, no, because I freaked out. I didn't know what this voice was. I didn't know what was happening. And I've had other voices speak to me, and I know my experience isn't that unique. We all have connection with a higher power, a one mind guidance, whether it's your voice or a voice that you hear from someone else, or inclinations, feelings, pulls. And I don't want anyone to feel afraid of it. In fact, I think the more that we talk about it, the more we bring what I'm calling woo woo out of the closet, the more we start to normalize an aspect of our ability to see and know things beyond the reasoning mind. It actually helps us connect with a deeper inner part of our divinity because we came here as creators to be co creators with the divine. So, with your permission, I would like to bring the little woo woo out of the closet. And if not, too bad, because I have nothing else to talk about. So, we're going to do it either way. Now, every day, we call it the subconscious, we call it psychicism, call it intuition, a lot of names that we call the woo-woo aspects of our being. And I think this is a perfect time to talk about it because this is the time of year when the veil between what we would call our physical sensory world and the unseen world, spirit world, subconscious world, the presence, the divine, is the thinnest. So as the days grow shorter and the nights grow longer, this thinning of the veil where we become stiller to life. This is a time period where we're meant to slow down, where we're meant to take in information and nourishment and direction and guidance. And it's celebrated by many cultures. You know, the Gaelic festivals, it's called Samhain, or Samhain, sorry, Samhain, not Samhain. It looks Samhain, but it's pronounced Samhain, where they celebrate from October 31st to October 1st this time period. Or we have Diwali, the Hindus celebrating the light in the dark, and that's through October through November. Or my favorite, Dia de las Muertes, Day of the Dead. Who loves some Day of the Dead, right? Where we make altars and we bring in our ancestors and our pets and everyone who's on the other side of the veil. And this practice is actually rooted in Aztec rituals. The festival later merged with All Saints and All Souls Day. So that's why you get the Spanish Catholic influence and ceremony with this particular festival, Day of the Dead. So today I'm going to start off talking about the one mind because we're all using one mind. We all have what I call a zip code in the one mind, the world of the one mind. That's the conscious and subconscious mind. And we're also going to dive into talking about the psychic arts and abilities and how some of these arts are portals into the one mind that we can use and partner with to have other ways of knowing things. And we're going to talk about the Clares, all the Clares, as these types of abilities and sensory systems we have to tap into spirit and the presence of the one mind. So I'm going to start off with a quote by Larry Dossey. He's a medical doctor that wrote the book, The One Mind. Has anyone heard of that book, The One Mind? Yeah, if you have not, this should be in your top 10 metaphysical reading. He started to see causal connection between thoughts and knowings and something else going on in his patients. So he did a whole kind of essay on proving the one mind and all of these anecdotal stories. And here's what Larry says. There is a single overarching intelligence, an infinite mind that unites all individual minds. We all share this one mind. We are this one mind. It is boundless, eternal, and the source of all creativity, compassion, and insight. That's what we're connected to. He goes on to say that I myself have had several experiences suggesting that my mind, my conscious mind, my awareness are not limited to my individual brain or body. Who's ever had a knowing from out of the blue or some woo-woo? Anybody? Raise your hand so we know we're not alone, right? So he's noticed this too, and some scientists have also started to notice the one mind, and we see more and more kind of experiments going on with the one mind. You ever have a friend pop into your head from out of the blue? Ever wonder where the blue is? That one mind. And then they call, right? Or maybe you're thinking of a song you haven't heard in a while and you turn on the radio. There it is, right? We're all just kind of tuning in with a little antenna floating around in the one mind. In fact, some scientists have noticed that the biggest discoveries that have happened happen at the same time by people totally unrelated. For instance, Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace both developed the theory of evolution independently within the same time period. Or Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm both invented calculus separately, and they're both on the planet at the same time. But here's my favorite. Alexander Graham Bell and Elijah Gray, both men arrived at the U.S. Patent Office in Washington on February 14th, 1876, to file paperwork for their telephone inventions, literally within hours of each other. And the only reason we're not calling it, Pat Gray is because Bell got there first, right? Within hours. Our shared reality or one mind can be accessed and influenced by the right use of our mind, our body, and our intuition. In fact, I remember, and I see confirmation of this all the time. I was at a Chinese restaurant and I was there with a group of coworkers, and I wanted egg drop soup and wonton soup. I wanted both, but I thought that'd be weird. That'd be weird. I'd probably be judged, right? I guess I cared what people thought back then. But anyhow, so I just ordered the wonton soup, and several of my coworkers ordered the meal combo, which came with egg drop soup. The waiter comes over and he starts handing out the egg drop soups, and he looks at me, and goes, "I have an extra. Would you like it?" I'm like, "Bring it right here. You got the psychic memo. We're on the one mind." So then it didn't look so weird. I've had other experiences too with the one mind, and people picking up kind of the memo that's sent out. I went to Rayleigh's one day and I wanted a juicy steak to put on the barbecue. Sorry, vegans. If there's any vegans, sorry. But I could taste it, I could smell it, right? I was just in that zone. And I looked at the price of steaks and I went, more than I want to spend. So I went home. I hear a knock on the door. I open the door. My neighbor is holding arms full of frozen gourmet steaks. He said, "I just wanted to give you this to thank you for helping with the softball team," right? One mind. He got the memo. So this is always happening, but we tend to see it as a one off or something unexplainable. But there's a science to it. There's a repeatability to it. It's a tool we can use to tap into the one mind, to gain resources, to solve problems, and to get our guidance for our highest and best path. And as you start to explore some of the gifts that we have that aren't really talked about, that are marginalized, that we judge people with these abilities, the more it grows. The more you listen to it, the more you recognize it, the more your capacity to use it grows. So I want everyone right now just to think back. You're the equivalent of your steaks at the door? When was there a coincidence that happened that showed perfect alignment between thought or intention, and boom, what showed up? Or the direction you got, right? That out of the blue hit. I think all of us, we can think of something, and if nothing's coming to mind right now, I'm going to challenge you to start paying attention. When that woo-woo thing shows up, I want you to rewind your thought process, the little whisper in the mind that you made, and start connecting the two. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. We know this about certain things that expand our mind. Larry also says, when we know we are connected through one mind, compassion becomes as natural as breathing. In recognizing our shared consciousness, helping others becomes helping ourselves, and healing others becomes self-healing, right? We realize just how intimately we're all swimming around in one consciousness. In fact, I call this one consciousness the pool. And we got to be careful what we put in the pool, right? We all know not to pee in the pool, right? Low thoughts, negative thoughts, judgy thoughts, thoughts of shame and disconnect keeps the water unpure. And it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone that swims through it. So, how does the one mind communicate with us? And you may have some ideas about that. You know who had really strong ideas about this and used it as a practice Ancient Greeks, they knew that spirit didn't have physical vocal cords of its own, but they knew that the divine, the one mind, could speak through us. And they actually used a technique. It was called, they looked for something called a cleat on, a cleat on. So this is the way it worked. A general might be making a decision about whether to go to battle this week or next week. And so he'll pray to the gods and he say, I would like the answer of when I will have my victory. Shall I go to battle this week or next week? And then here's what he would do. He would go through the marketplace, right? Where everyone's kind of hovering around and there's all these conversations going on. And he would just listen with the ear behind the ear for a conversation that jumps out. So there might be a merchant talking to a customer in some one of the vending places, and all of a sudden he hears the merchant say, "Not this week, I'll have it next week for you." It jumps out of the hubbub of a conversation. It's amplified, almost as if that message was directed right to the general. And I've done this. It's a fun thing to do. I challenge you to do it if you go to a farmer's market or a busy restaurant or whatever, and you're trying to make a decision about something, just say, one mind, spirit, let me hear the message in the messages in the room. See what happens. Start to listen for that amplified feeling of the voice. So, how else does spirit communicate with us? Synchronicities, dreams, sometimes roadblocks. We get redirect, redirect, redirect. Now, I remember I was chasing a job once that I thought I really wanted, and I almost got it, and I didn't. And it was like a total roadblock. But what happened after that, literally the next day, I was offered a contract position for more money than I was going to make. I was making a full-time salary, working half-time, and deciding what I wanted to work on. It was like the dream job, right? Um, so thoughts from out of the blue drop in. We might also call this psychic knowing or direction. So I want to break it down into the clairs. Who's heard of the clairs? Clairaudient, clairvoyant, clair. Okay, might be new to some people. Some people know about it. So we're going to go through, there's actually 8 of them. The first one is clairvoyancy, which is clear seeing. So it's a perception through your inner vision. I remember that I was in this little psychic development group, and we would try to read each other. And I was with this guy, and I kept seeing the word law in really big letters. And I thought that was weird because we go, it's weird, so I don't want to say it. So I finally said it, and he goes, well, I'm actually going through a lot of legal issues right now, right? So that's how the spirit communicated it to me. Who's ever had a clairvoyant experience? This is how we bring woo woo out of the closet. Thank you for sharing, because now we're starting to normalize it. It's not just Mitch, it's all of us seem to have some of these. The next one is clairaudience, clear hearing, right? Receiving intuitive information through sound or words. I am very clairaudient. And I think if you probably heard one of my stories where I was sitting at my desk in my job and I heard clearly, quit your job. I mean, as clearly as somebody was in the room. I assure you, I wasn't crazy. I was in my right mind. And then I heard it a week later. And then weird things started happening at work, right? It was kind of like, look, go, you need to go. I'm telling you to go. So then finally I listened. Who's had some clairaudient experiences? Anybody you heard something, Doug? Yeah, wonderful. How about clear feeling, clear sentience? Sensing energy or emotion in the body. Tim, you've had that? Yeah. My mom was very clear sentient. I remember it was a clear day in Texas. I was really young. My dad wanted to go boating out on the lake. And my mom said, got a bad feeling. We're not going. And so we didn't go. He was not happy about it. Thought she was a little like, woo woo. And then that day, a storm from out of nowhere had hit the lake and 10 boats had crashed. So her feeling was definitely on point. How about claircognizance? Anybody have clear knowing? You just know. You know that this is your left hand, this is your right hand, and you know this thing. Wonderful. I saw that, Susan. I remember I was in Lake Tahoe at the casino, and of course my claircognizance drops in when I no longer have any more money. And I'm standing at the roulette table and I go, 45's gonna hit. I know 45's gonna hit. So I turned to my friend, I said, put that $5 chip on 45. And it hit. And I got a free lunch. That's what I got out of it. How about Claire aliens? So this is smelling. So you'll smell a scent. A lot of times mediums or mediumship, you'll smell a scent of a loved one that's on the other side. Has anyone had that where you smell some perfume or something, some cologne or whatever? I had that once. I smelled my mother's white shoulders perfume, and it was nowhere in sight. It was just in my house. There was no reason for me to have that smell. I love this one. It's called Claire Gustance. It's clear tasting. So you have a taste, a flavor of something in your mouth. I wish I could have tri-tip taco taste all the time in my mouth, but I've never had that one. Has anyone ever had that one where you're tasting something, you're like, really, Susan? That's awesome. Another one is clair tangency. So this is it's also been called psychometry, where you hold an object or you touch something and you start to get vibrations from it and either visions or some type of information. I was working with a friend of mine who's Dawn, who's a professional psychic, and she was having me do some psychic games with her, and she handed me a piece of jewelry. And I started holding it and I started calling through who I was seeing, what she was like, the personality. It was all spot on. So anybody ever touch an object or hold something and kind of get some vibrations or hits about what it's about or what it's telling you, Jeff? You've had that. Awesome. The last one is clear empathy or clear emotional feeling. This is where you can pick up other people's emotions, and I have this one, so I have to be careful. Anyone who has this one, or if you don't know you have it, sometimes you need to check it and see if your emotions are yours. So let me give you my example. I was at a workshop, and this woman started singing a song, a very high vibrational song, as part of her workshop. And I was focused on her. I was feeling really, I thought the song was nice. I thought it was beautiful, but it wasn't really moving me that I could tell, but I felt like crying. I'm looking at her, I'm going, why are tears? Tears were literally welling up in my eyes because I knew I didn't feel like crying. It wasn't mine. And I looked to my left and my partner was bawling. So I was literally picking up her emotions in my energetic field. Has anybody ever had a similar experience where you've picked up, you knew it wasn't yours, you weren't angry or you weren't sad or whatever? Yeah, it's a thing. Pat, you've had that too. So what I really love is right now we've just went through the 8 clears and we're kind of like, oh yeah, Claire's, I've had that, I've had that, I've had this one, I haven't had this one. So we kind of see that this is a thing, and this is how we start to normalize stuff and bring it out of the closet. So I want to touch base real quick on the psychic arts, and I'm going to talk about two types that are commonly discussed: psychicism or being psychic, and mediumship. So psychics are people who can tap into the stream of the one mind and see the energetic pattern and where it's leading. But I want to be clear. They don't know the future. Why? Because we have free will, right? We have free will. We can change where we're headed. Um, who has ever had a psychic experience or have met with a psychic and they were like spot on with things? I have, for sure. Actually, just before my surgery, I met with my main person that I've known for 10 years, and she's always been right. And out of the blue, she said, "Yep, I see you're having a procedure." She said that it's gonna be a long procedure, but she said it's really for the better and it's a good thing. Well, the procedure was only supposed to be 3 hours, but it ended up being 7. She was absolutely right. It was longer, it was a lot, and it was the best thing for me. So I was really grateful for that. Sometimes we just need reassurance on things, and it was a great way to get it. But here's the thing. If you meet with a psychic or someone who has these abilities, don't give your power over. right? We're always at the seat of the power of our lives. We're always at the steering wheel. So don't give away your power to a psychic who maybe wants to tell you it's this way or you have to do that. Some aren't as skilled as others. So make sure if you do see someone, you're seeing someone who's empowering you towards your own choices. The second one is mediumship. So I am a medium. I have talked to disembodied people. Has anyone had an experience with somebody on the other side of the veil? You have any, maybe you had a, right, a word or a situation or a dream. Oftentimes it's much easier for our loved ones and pets and everything to come through in dreams because we're not as guarded in our logical brain. So mediums are people who can, well, talk to dead people. Um, and we all have access, right? Because we're all in the one mind. And the people who have left their bodies are still in the one mind. They still exist energetically. And that means we can communicate with them. One of the best stories I love, there was a skeptic, I think his name was Michael Schumer, and he actually ran Skeptic magazine. And he was getting married in Europe, and they sent all the stuff from America over to Europe. They were going to live there. And his wife kept saying how much she missed her grandfather and wished he could be at the wedding. And then after the wedding, they were in their room and they were both looking for the source of this music. They were hearing music. And finally, they pinned it down to the grandfather's old clock. And Michael had tried to get that clock working for years. And it was playing music, the most beautiful, romantic music. And it played all that night. And in the morning, it stopped and never played music again. Michael has since said, maybe there's something to some of this, right? Something he couldn't explain. So, how do we tap into this? How do we tap into the clairs? How do we tap into our divine guidance, our intuition? See, it's beneath the splashy, loud mind is where our intuition is. Ernest Holmes wrote, in the silence of our own soul, we hear the whispers of the infinite. So this requires us to shut down the thinking aspects of ourself, to start breathing consciously because our breath connects us with our body, and our body is always tuning into things and picking up information in ways the brain cannot. You can focus in the third eye area or the heart space to get out of your reasoning mind. And you can just breathe and keep asking the question, what is mine to know? What is mine to know? And then allow yourself to become still because it might come in as a vision, right? Clairvoyance. It might come in as clairaudience. It might come in as a feeling tone. It might come in as an urge to do something, right? All kinds of ways that spirit is going to get us that answer. You know, and neuroscience is starting to study some of the different rhythms of our brain. When we become silent, we actually move into alpha and theta states, which are the more receptive states of our consciousness. Gets us into the right hemisphere of our brain, the part that's responsible for pattern recognition, insight, creativity, right? This is where we can hear things that we couldn't hear otherwise. And so we can start using our bodies as a messenger for divine talking to us. It's our bodies are actually an instrument of divine intelligence. You know how I know this? You know how I know this? You want to know how I know this? Tell me how you digest your food consciously. Anybody? Anybody? Anybody know how to do that? No, we don't. But the one mind, the subconscious mind does, and just acts upon our system, right? The way Bruce Lipton a stem cell psychologist and author and New Thought person, puts it. He says, the body is the manifestation of the subconscious mind. That's why we don't need to know it. We don't need to know how to replace a cell. The body knows already, automatically. Just like birds use a subconscious mind all the time. They go and build a nest. They don't go to nest building school 101. They just know. And that direct knowing is available to us as well. So here's one way we can use the body as an instrument for knowing that surpasses the logical mind. We can tune into our feeling state, and a yes is going to feel warm, easy, and expansive. That's going to feel like truth when your body responds that way. When we ask a yes or no question and we get tightness, heaviness, or unease, that's no. That's no. Right? So I'm going to do a little exercise with you right now so you can tune into yes and no, so you can tune into truth. All right? So just take a breath. Let it out. Now I want you to say your name. I am whatever your name is. So I am Mitch, and just feel into your body. I am Mitch. How does that feel? I am Mitch. Just feel in your body. Does it feel easy? Feels clear, right? Doesn't feel hard or heavy. Now, I want you to pick a different name, completely radical different name, right? My name is Jorge. Ooh, I felt that in my chest, a real tightness. So pick a different name and then feel what your body does when you say it, because your body's going to say, that's not the truth. That's not the truth. And so just come back. Who felt a little difference between the two? A little bit of difference? Yeah. You can start using that as your own divining tool. You know, should I move from my home? Drop into that. Stay here. How's that feel? Move. How does that feel? And you'll start to get more guidance. It's also something called muscle testing. Anyone ever hear muscle testing? How the body gets stronger or weaker, stronger in the truth, weaker in a lie? I did a little workshop to demonstrate this, and I had envelopes marked A. One was marked A, and the other envelope was marked B. And I taught everyone how to do muscle testing with pulling down on the arm. And what they did is they took the envelope A, they put it on their heart, and they saw how strong they tested. And so I had everyone identify which one they tested stronger with. So envelope A had organic real sugar, and envelope B, sorry people, had sucralose in it, fake sugar. 90% of the room tested stronger with the organic sugar than the sucralose. 90%. And they didn't know what was what. That's how truthful, how accurate our bodies are. So, intuitive knowing is often felt first in the gut or the heart, right? Anybody ever say, I just feel it in my gut? I just feel it in my gut, right? Because that's a real thing. It's really our body talking to us. It's also been known as our second brain when we tune in to the physical sensations and use our body as an intuitive compass. And here's the thing, you can align with the one mind. You're never cut off from this wisdom. It connects all consciousness. When you ask for guidance sincerely, you tune into that universal frequency. Now, Wayne Dyer puts it this way. He says, intuition is the voice of God within us, reminding us that we are never alone, never alone. And so you can affirm, use the affirmation and say, I am open to clear inner guidance in perfect time and in a perfect way. Because who knows you better than you? Your creator, spirit, knows you better than you and knows how to bring the information, when to bring it in a way that you will clearly understand, as long as you're receptive. So oftentimes we also can experience this illumination in daydreaming. Any daydreamers? I was a big daydreamer as a kid. I had the hardest time focusing in school. So I was off somewhere else in my head. Light meditation. I'm more kinesthetic. So when I walk in nature, all the out of the blue starts downloading. Anybody have that one? Yeah, just being in nature starts to do it for me because I start to get into the alpha waves and I start to open that gateway, a different state of consciousness. And when we get into that different state, that alpha and theta state, that's when we can really tune in to things that were out of our bandwidth of awareness because we're in beta and we're in thinking and we're in focusing and we're in planning and problem solving. And many scientists use this. In fact, Thomas Edison used theta and theta state for his own problem solving. He would actually hold a marble or a metal ball in his hand. He would get in his comfortable chair and relax so that when he was just about to fall asleep and the ball dropped, it would wake him up just enough to stay in that in between, that liminal state, that twilight zone state, and the best ideas. Anybody ever have the best ideas drop in just before you fall asleep or just before you fully wake up? So these are states we can know about, we can use, and we can tap into. And here's the thing, use it or lose it. The more you use it, just like the brain, the better it gets, the easier it gets. The less you use it, it atrophies or we don't pay attention to it. So try meditating. Try a cleat on before you go to the farmer's market. See what pops out. What we're trying to do here is communicate. And what happens when you try to communicate to someone? You're always talking to them, but they're not listening. What do you do? What do? You stop talking. It's kind of like spirit, right? So we can open up the portal of our divine guidance and our woo-woo coming through and our intuition, or we can close it down by not listening. Because what happens is we get that little weird thought that drops in and we dismiss it. And then later we go, it was right. It was right. I remember I was walking out the door once to go to work and I heard that little small voice say, bring your checkbook. Weird. Why would I bring my checkbook to work? Weird, right? But I knew to pay attention. So I grabbed my checkbook. I said, I don't know why I'm bringing my checkbook, but I'm bringing it. Well, that day they had crab feed tickets for sale that I've been wanting for a month. And they only took cash or check, and they actually sold out that day. And because I had my checkbook, right? Spirit knew I wanted this, and I listened, and now I listen to it a lot more. So, if you're willing to have more guidance, more knowing, more support from spirit, say yes. Don't be afraid of it. And here's the thing we need to do, we need to start sharing this. We need to start sharing our stories of the woo woo. We need to start reaffirming that what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're knowing is real and it's credible. And we can all start sharing and knowing it together to access our woo woo and start trusting it, to use these in our power for choice, because we will get choices and information that the reasoning mind will never bring us. And so it's my deepest prayer that you embrace this inner divine gift of the one mind. You use it, you share it, and you help us bring woo woo out of the closet. Blessed be everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, do I do a prayer or something? Do I need to do anything else?
It's me for meditation. I'm going to do a meditation for you, Mitch. So this is a moment where we can just lean back, forget everything, the busyness that got us here, and just let Mitch's words soak in at a deep level. As perhaps we've never done before, let each of us become open to the inner feelings open to the consciousness that we don't acknowledge most of the time. Be listening for the signs, for the messages. They're always out there. Are we tuned in? Ask yourself, can I tune in? And be still. Be still. Listen, and you will know. And so it is. Thank you.
That was out of this world. Couldn't resist. Uh, it really it is something that we tend to, I think, have doubt about. And you just eliminated that. But that's really cool. That's wonderful. So thank you very much. That was great. All right. Can you stick around for a little bit? I'm sure everybody's got, yay, good.